moving along to the next item of the agenda, the crux of why we're here, the research presentations. And so we have 7 presenters who have taken the time to put forth their research in posters for us. The format will be approximately 8 minutes for each presenter to present his or her research, followed by 2 minutes of question and answer. I will have an actual timer and will notify each presenter at around the 7-minute mark that the presentation needs to conclude soon. So the order of presentations is displayed, I believe, with Dr. Godwin Ovinseri Ogbomo as the first presenter. Doctor, if you wish to introduce yourself with any other information, you are welcome to, as are each presenter when it's your turn. Thank you very much, Dr. Ogbomo. We'll now listen to your presentation.
All right. Good evening, everybody. Thank you, Dr. Prof, for the kind introduction. And I just want to add that that introduction does suffice for me. And as stated, that's what I do. So I'll just really talk through a poster. Just to know that this poster, can we go back a little? That this poster was presented at the American Academy of Information poster at the Indianapolis meeting in November. And so we're just presenting this to provide context and to let Africans or those of us who couldn't attend that meeting the opportunity to have this information and what we did and the output of our study. So our study the title was Knowledge, Attitude, and Perception of African Optometrists of the Fellowship of the American Academy of Optometry. It was a cross-sectional study. And I just want to note the other collaborators that worked together on this project. I'll just really acknowledge her name, Dr. Rita Ekpenyong Okansi and Abri Akufo, and our able president of the African chapter of the Academy, Dr. Oliver Oswagu. Just to start, I'm sure all of us here, we are quite aware of what the American Academy of Optometry represents and what the obtaining the fellowship holds for individuals that are so recognized. It presents a distinguished level of professional, academic, and research achievements within the field of optometry. And the motivation to do this study came after 2022, when myself and a few others became fellows. And one of the questions that was asked at that meeting, that was asked to particularly the president of the chapter, was how come after these many works you've done, you're just coming to become a fellow? I wanted to find out why not so many Africans are becoming fellows of the Academy, although a number of Africans have been fellows, but then the rate at which they became fellows was in trickles, and it was not widely known. As we wanted to find out what African optometrists know about the fellowship, about the process of becoming, of obtaining the fellowship, and the barriers that they might have in obtaining the fellowship. So the aim of the study was to investigate the perception and awareness of optometry in Africa about their knowledge of the process of becoming a fellow. And essentially, it was a cross-sectional study using self-administered web-based survey. And after the meeting in 2022, we set up a WhatsApp group and asked people who wanted to become members to sign up to that WhatsApp group. And in barely a month, we had about over 600 optometrists from across Africa expressing desire to become members. And so that was the motivation. We wanted to find out what they know. And so we sent out this questionnaire. It was designed on Google Form, essentially looking at demographics, where they obtained their optometric qualification from, their age, and the length of years they've been in practice. And we adopted some of the questions that the Academy had used to survey members of the Academy and to know their own perception of the activities of the Academy. And we modified that given the scenario that we see ourselves in Africa. And so just to quickly go on to the results, of the 645 members who were on that WhatsApp group, we received about 302 responses that were eligible for analysis. And we found out that, unlike what we're going to find out in terms of the result, that the perception that the fellowship is for very senior optometrists, the survey revealed that majority of the respondents were younger than 40. And if you consider that for you to graduate from optometric school, you probably be your late 20s, getting to 30. That does show that this group of people are people who are probably just obtaining their optometric qualification and wanted to and express desire to, join the academy and obtain the fellowship. Majority of them were from either Nigeria or Ghana, and the majority of them had also practiced for at least some 9 years. That's majority of them, and over 90% of the respondents obtained the OD degree. And that would also correlate with the fact that OD degree is the minimum qualification to practice optometry in Nigeria and Ghana. And given that majority of the respondents were from those two countries, it does stand to show why majority of the respondents also were those that have obtained their OD qualification. Another significant thing that we noted in this study was that although 90% of the respondents have heard about the academy, mainly by word of mouth and maybe from fellows and oftentimes from lecturers in different universities who've obtained the fellowship. We just noted that in spite of that vast number of people having heard of the academy, only a tiny proportion actually know the process of obtaining the fellowship. And as we say in figure 2, I'll probably just jump to that. Sorry, that should be figure 3. The reasons why they've not applied for membership. We'll find out that some of them indicated that although we expect that cost should be the main reason, but cost was not the main reason for not obtaining the fellowship. The main reason from the respondent was the fact that they were not aware of the process of obtaining the fellowship. And in terms of their perception of what the fellowship holds for them, why they wanted to become members or obtain the fellowship, they expressed the desire to advance their clinical training, enhance their research capacity as a means of continuing education and networking purposes. From the slide, we can also see that of the respondents also, about less than 10% of respondents had previously attended academy meetings, and they probably just attended for different reasons and all of that. So what we found out that although there was a desire to obtain the fellowship, the fact that majority didn't know how to obtain this fellowship became a barrier to obtaining the fellowship. So in conclusion, we realized that if the process is properly communicated to optometrists across Africa, we're going to have a large number of Africans obtaining the fellowship. So we noted that the study provides evidence for the untapped potential and the keen interest among African optometrists in obtaining the fellowship. And so if we're able to address, or the academy is able to address the barriers that we've identified in this study, we'll be able to get many more African optometrists obtaining the fellowship. Thank you.
Thank you, Doctor. Now we have 2 minutes for question and answer. Is there anyone from our community who has a question for Dr. Ogbomo about his research on those trying to be aware of the fellowship in the American Academy of Optometry?
Yes, please. Yeah, I have a question. Sorry. Good evening, everyone. So, thank you, Doc, for your presentation. Can you hear me, please?
Yes, please.
Yeah. Thank you for the presentation and drawing our lights as regards to level of awareness as regards to the American Academy of Optometry Fellowship. So my question is, you mentioned something as regards to membership. You said that, interestingly, that cost of membership wasn't necessarily a major barrier as regards to their perception, right? Why do you think this was, interesting for you? Could it be like maybe more like you were hypothesizing that this would have been a major issue? So can you throw more light on that? Thank you.
Yes, I think for majority of us from Africa, given the resource challenge that we have in Africa, one would have supposed that the cost of obtaining the fellowship might be a huge barrier, although it came up as a second reason for not obtaining it. But it's interesting that it is not the primary reason for not obtaining the fellowship. The fact that people are not aware of the process was stood out as a major reason for not obtaining it, and followed by cost. And so if we address provide information as to the process, which is what the African chapter has been doing over the last year or so, to provide this information, organize webinars to provide the information on how to obtain the fellowship. And then the Academy has also responded, following advocacy from the African chapter, to look at the cost in terms of how cost is also a barrier. So if we address those two factors, we will be able to remove as much as about 70% of the barriers. And if that is taken care of, then more people will be able to become members and then obtain the fellowship. And of course, just to note, last year, we were able to mentor 10 persons to obtain the fellowship. This year, that number was, I think, almost double, more than double. I think this year we got about 16 or 20 or more, So that means that process of reducing the cost element and providing the information to African optometrists would enhance the ability for African optometrists to obtain the fellowship. And just to add, the link in that question there, this paper has been published by Clinical Optometry. So if you click on that link, you can have the full article that's just recently been published on this study, so that you can have all the full gist of the research.
Thank you very much, sir.